Empty the chamber on them. And how do you do that? First 6 seconds, point A to point B, everything you got. Everything you got. Turn that shit up. Let's go.
Welcome to Scoop World Order. Happy Sunday edition. It's been a couple of days. There's been about a million things that have happened. We're happy you guys are joining us on Sunday, leading you into a great triple header of NFL action. Super excited. We're going to talk CJ Stroud, Big Ten commissioner, offensive line recruiting, like we have to talk about every single day, and all kinds of great stuff. And we're also going to take your questions. So in the chat, please get those questions cranked up. We look forward to answering some stuff for you guys. So with that being said, as always, very thankful and grateful for you guys. Happy Sunday. It is great to spend time with you guys. The offseason is cranked up. The beautiful thing about college football with the transfer portal, NIL, recruiting, coaching changes, NFL firings that are sure to come from the playoffs. Hello, LA Chargers. Never sleeps. Commissioner resigns. There's a million things to talk about. So we are thankful for you guys. A lot of topics to go through. Very excited that you guys are joining us, and we are very appreciative. If you enjoy this content, please leave us a like. The likes are humongous for us. They do a lot to help this channel. So thank you so much. If you enjoy our live shows, click subscribe and also click on the little alert bell, and you'll get a little alert that says when we go live. We love doing the live shows. We love interacting with you guys. They've been an absolute blast to do, and we're going to keep cranking those as we start breaking down more film from the season, film from recruiting. We're doing a lot of those film breakdowns. I know you guys love those. With that being said, going to bring in my good friend Nevada Buck. Nevada, it's been a couple of days since we've done one of these, and holy cow, has there been a lot of stuff that's happened. New Big Ten commish hunt. Obviously, the CJ Stroud stuff still hanging out there. A lot of good stuff going on. What is the first thing you want to talk about today? I imagine it's going to be the Stroud decision.
I think so. I mean, I think that's what everybody wants to talk about. Certainly, what I've been getting the most information about and had kind of the most interaction with people about has been CJ Stroud. And what I can tell people out there is I keep getting texts from people that should know that tell me that there's more to the CJ Stroud thing than meets the eye, and I just refuse to believe it. So I can't get there. I can't buy in. It doesn't make sense to me. Now we can talk about all the reasons why it can make sense and why NIL changes the game, but it just doesn't make any sense to me. But I just keep getting inundated with just enough information and enough texts and enough people reaching out that are saying there's more to this than meets the eye, that it just gives me a little bit of pause. Now, gun to my head, you ask me, Nevada, is CJ Stroud leaving or CJ Stroud staying? I'm saying he's leaving. He's going to the NFL. It makes all the sense in the world. But I can say to everybody that's listening, and I can say to you, Mr. Barton, I have gotten more texts on this than just about any story that I've been covering in recent memory, that are all saying the same thing, that CJ's really thinking hard about returning for another year. And so it's difficult to reconcile that with my feelings that he's leaving, but that's what I got as of 9:07 Pacific Daylight Time on Sunday morning.
Yeah, I got a text last night from someone that I really trust, and they literally wrote Stroud is returning, and I called him and I was like, go fly a kite. He's not really returning. He's like, no, it's 50-50. Also, they're trash, and I'm like, there's just no way. I'll never believe it. I mean, there's plenty of people out there saying he's gone. I just can't believe that he's going to turn down $25 million. But the interesting thing about NIL nowadays is that you can kind of hedge a little bit, and you're not going to get 20 million, but you could get 5 to 8 million from national deals, local deals, so it's not like, for instance, the second greatest quarterback who ever lived, Peyton Manning, literally, junior, he was the most perfect, player to come through the ranks. He would have been the number one pick to the New York Jets, which ended up being Orlando Pace. They traded with the Rams. And when he came back, obviously, the Manning family has money. It's not like he was eating, ramen noodles, but, he came back and he legally couldn't make money. Now, also, he's in the SEC. I get it. So obviously I'm sure he was making something, but I think that extra year really does a lot for you. Like, if you look at some of the guys, because everyone's like, oh, get to the NFL, get that guaranteed money, and then get that mega contract. Like, a lot of the guys that like Justin Herbert is going to be a $50 million a year quarterback when he re-ups. Joe Burrow, who stayed 5 years, $50 million a year re-up. They'll all be in that Mahomes super mega contract category. And I really don't think it hurts you. I think that you see some of these guys that are 3 and out, they leave early, like Zach Wilson, absolute catastrophic bust. Trey Lance is likely going to get supplanted by Brock Purdy. There's a lot of these guys that go 3 and out, they make the money, which is obviously, I can never fault anybody who leaves early to make $25 million. But as a quarterback, it's so much different than being a running back or like a high impact guy. Not impact in terms of your play, impact in terms of your catastrophic injury potential. Because, like Sam Bradford tore his knee up his final year and he still went number 1 overall and he still made $250 million throughout the course of his career. So, like a quarterback, what's the worst thing that can happen? Is there that 1 in a billion chance that you have the Braxton Miller injury where your shoulder falls out of the socket? It's probably not going to happen. And, I've seen the benefit to these guys at safe for another year. And, if he comes back, which he's not going to, but let's just pie in the sky it that he does, dude, you're throwing a Marvin, Emeka, Trey Henderson. It'd be not just the best, not triplets, but like, quadrants, whatever you want to call our 4 guys. Probably the best in college football history. If you go 4 first-round picks as your 4 skill guys, and I'm talking top drawer, best in the nation first-round picks, not like the 32nd pick. So I don't know. Like it seems like he's really hemming and hawing because a guy like Paris is ready to go. Paris is like a 35-year-old in a 20-year-old's body. He's ready for the rigors of the NFL. CJ, I think he is, but there's so much more of a microscope thrown on you when you're a quarterback than when you're any other position, because you literally become the face of the franchise the second you get drafted. And that's hard. I mean, you see, like in just the last couple of years, you saw Zach Wilson go above Justin Fields. Justin, I think physically is a much more developed player than CJ, just in terms of his stature, his muscularity. He's been able to hang in there in the NFL. Got a little beat up this year, but he was, he should have been a Pro Bowler this year. I mean, he broke the rushing record in the NFL, or if he didn't, he came real close to it. And I don't know, it's going to be fascinating. He'll probably declare as we're doing this show. But Nevada, do you have any pushback on anything I said? Does any of it make, sense? I mean, obviously, we fully expect him to declare, but what are your thoughts on that after I just gave my dissertation on why CJ should stay?
Well, I think it just points out the change with NIL. And with NIL, the value equation used to be take 0 or money under the table or go get your NFL money. And now, with NIL, you're delaying getting that NIL, you're getting that NFL money, that big signing bonus. But you understand that's not going away. You're just getting it a year later. And in the meantime, you're making your $5, your $7, your $8 million while you're still in college. And so that changes some things. And as you said, for quarterbacks of all the positions, it's the guys that are, there's that great algorithm about number of starts, about about relevant experience, about guys being able to go out there and mentally be ready to handle the rigors of the starting in the NFL. Having said all that, I fully expect CJ to announce today that this was a tough decision, that he prayed about it, that he was very close, he tossed and turned, and he's decided to go to the NFL. But like I said, there's enough smoke on this that it just gave me a little bit of pause, because there's just been, like I said, I've had so many people reach out to me saying, similar to the messages that you got, I really think he's coming back. I really think he's going to, and then, I can't quite get there for the people. So I'd love to, break that and say, oh, CJ Stroud, but I'm definitely not anywhere near that. But it's certainly been a curious couple of weeks here leading up to this announcement. And, we'll all know shortly. But like I said, but now let's talk about, say CJ Stroud did the unthinkable and said, okay, guys, I'm coming back to Ohio State. And there's wild rejoicing. Well, now the next question is, well, what happens with Devin Brown and Kyle McCord? Are those two guys like out the door, immediately? It's not, there's always the law of unintended consequences. And, you have to think about, all the push and pull and what happens and how does that bode for Ohio State in 2024 when, CJ's gone and Devin's gone and Kyle's gone, and all you've got is a freshman quarterback from South Dakota in the quarterback room. So look, there's just so many twists and turns to this thing. I shouldn't say I'm ready for it to be over, because I love stuff like this. I think it's part of the fun job of what we do. But again, for the record, fully expect him to commit. But it's certainly been an interesting saga for sure.
Yeah, I haven't seen many like this where there has been smoke. I mean, there's been smoke from like legit sources on my end where I can't believe that they're actually writing that without like a clown nose at the end or something silly, because I'm like, you guys really think that we're gonna fall for this? Because I don't see it. Like, I think that 25 million is so better than 5 million. Go get a start in your career, but I think that when you're a quarterback, man, like these second contracts, those are the big ones. And it's like, what gives you the best chance to get to that mega second, that Pat Mahomes 10-year, $500 million contract? Like that's the question. Because like Zach Wilson will never see that contract. Trey Lance will never see that contract. A lot of these guys that went first round that left early don't ever see that contract. But Justin Herbert, who shocked the world by coming back for another year, he's going to see that contract because he's out of this world good. His head coach isn't going to see that contract. Joe Burrow, who played 5 years of college, is going to see it. I don't know. I think it's just a really tough gig to be to be 3 and out and be ultra successful in the NFL. I don't believe Mahomes was a 3 and out guy. Deshaun Watson, I believe, was 4 and out. I think he redshirted his first year, but it's it's the trend to leave early. But the NFL is a different beast now. You're not going to have the underhand softball questions from the media like the Ohio State press corps that really never presses these guys on anything. Like, you get to the NFL, man, there are some mother effers that are in those media corps, especially if you go to New York, Chicago, some of the more vicious cities, man. I mean, it is not for the faint of heart, and they're going to shred you. So, and CJ, he's proven that he's a sensitive kid. He's talked about reading stuff on social media, which, again, if I was one of these guys, or if I was their position coach, I'd tell them, don't even have social media, but they all love the adulation. So they all have to search their names and read all the nasty, terrible things that the idiots of the universe write about them. So, but I don't know. Like I said, it'll be fascinating. Full expect for him to declare tomorrow. Tomorrow's the deadline, Monday, so nowhere to hide either way tomorrow. But I just, it'd be something. I mean, I know that there's no chance he's coming back, but if there's ever an infrastructure that's going to have a kid like that come back, I mean, you get to throw it to Marvin and Emeka and Trey. I mean, and you get Cade Stover back. I mean, come on. Like, I mean, you got the 2 best receivers in the country, the best running back in the country, probably the best tight end in the country, or top 2 or 3 tight end in the country, behind the kid from Georgia, obviously, who's probably going to be a top 10 pick next year. But I mean, lot of weapons. And you got Brian Hartline calling the plays now. So this is the perfect segue. Nevada, you had it first about Brian Hartline being promoted to offensive coordinator. You had that a couple of weeks ago. Talk about what you expect from Brian Hartline. He shifts into the offensive coordinator role. Justin Fry becomes the running game coordinator. Any huge changes? What do you pontificate is going to happen now that Brian Hartline is the play caller? And do you like the move? Because, Ryan Day just had the limitless pill in his veins when he was calling plays versus Georgia. He probably had the best play calling day of his life. And now he hands the whistle over to Brian Hartline. So is there any downside to that after Ryan just had such a majestic performance versus the Georgia Bulldogs?
Well, we just wish he had one more limitless pill to show a little creativity on that last those last 3 or 4 plays to get a little.
Oh God!
Maybe fake the handoff and roll out to the right.
Oh God!
Stroll into the end zone. But I digress. No, I think here's what people have to understand about the Brian Hartline situation. Contrary to what people were saying about how Brian Hartline only wanted to be a wide receiver coach at Ohio State and would never leave, and that's all he wanted to do, Brian Hartline wants to be a head coach. Brian Hartline looks at guys like Cliff Kingsbury and every other young NFL head coach and Lincoln Riley and just says, why not me? I'm the same age as these guys. I'm as smart as these guys. I can be a head coach and make $15-20 million a year. So get me on that path. So let's accept that premise there to begin with. What's the path of Brian Hartline? The path of Brian Hartline is become a full-time coordinator, call plays, have to have that on my resume before I step into a head coaching job. So either Ryan Day is going to either present that opportunity to him or not present that opportunity to him. And he's, I think they've decided to do that. And third is that there's pressure from above, from the Ohio State powers that be, specifically Gene Smith and the people that Gene Smith report to have Ryan Day stop being such a quarterback coach, offensive coordinator-centric type of administrator of the job, and step into more of a overseeing CEO, global viewpoint type of perspective. So he'll still have heavy input into the game plan. He'll still be on the headset. He'll still be making suggestions on play calls and overrule them on play calls, much like Urban Meyer did when he wanted a particular set or call to be made. But the bottom line is Brian Hartline's going to be calling the plays. He's going to be the offensive coordinator. It's a necessary move to keep the best recruiter in college football as part of the Ohio State family. And I think it makes a lot of sense, and I'm excited about it.
Yeah, it was so funny because it was like it had to be like June. It was like when the camps were going on, and I saw Brian at Town Hall. They host all the unofficial visitors down there for lunch and whatever. And I talked to him, and I was like, "Are you really going to stay here and be your wide receiver coach for the rest of your life?" And he's like, he's like everybody else. He sees some of these jamokes like Cliff Kingsbury, who's going to be getting paid by the Arizona Cardinals for the next 5 years. Every 2 weeks, and just took a trip to Thailand on the slow boat. Brian wants to be a head coach. And again, anybody that says the contrary, that's just lip service. Brian will say, "Oh, I just want to be a Buckeye and coach my receivers and, sit in my little room with my 12 guys." And no, he wants to be a head coach. Like, come on. Like, he's met Lincoln Riley, who makes $15 million a year right now. And he thinks he can be that. And honestly, good. He should. You want guys that have ambition and they want to be better. And, because if you got guys that just want to sit there and be a position coach his whole life, then I don't know what to say to that. Because you know what he wants? He wants to be the head coach at Ohio State. How do you become the head coach at Ohio State? You better be the best offensive coordinator in the country at a minimum, or you better go elsewhere and prove that you can turn a program around and grow, because he's going to be competing against Luke Fickell, who's going to be running Wisconsin. I fully expect Wisconsin to become a powerhouse in the Big Ten West. Mike Vrabel, who's with the Titans. Other people, nobody really had Jim Tressel on the board when they hired him, or nobody had Ryan Day on the board when they hired him. Nobody knew who Ryan Day was. The day he walked into the building, he was on the breadline. He was unemployed. So nobody was like, "Holy cow, we got this Ryan Day guy." So, and he's turned into a good coach. So I think Brian, he's got that ambition. I literally told him, I'm like, "Brian, you have to start calling plays." And he was like, "Well, that's Ryan's thing. Ryan likes to call plays." I'm like, "Well, dude, you have to get really good at one thing." And all these offensive coaches are in vogue right now. The guys that, like the Sean McVays and Cliff Kingsbury got an NFL job because he stood next to Pat Mahomes and watched him throw the ball. So he got an NFL job. And I was like, dude, being an offensive wizard, Lincoln Riley, that is the golden ticket at this point. So I was like, dude, you got to start calling the plays. You got to say, "Here is my film. Here's my progression. Here's how I call a game." And it was like the light bulb would like over his head. I was like, you got to start doing that, man. And then all of a sudden this progressed, and I think Ryan, wanted to throw him a bone and let him be the play caller, let him be the OC. Nevada, do you agree with the move? Like, I think it's good. The only thing I worry about is that we promote so much internally, because we've promoted Parker Fleming, Keenan Bailey, Corey Dennis, Brian Hartline, and some of the, Brian's obviously been a grand slam home run, but do you worry that we get a lot of groupthink when you don't bring in anyone from outside of the pearly gates of the Woody Hayes? Like, do you think that there should be some fresh new ideas from somewhere else? Obviously, we brought in Justin Fry from UCLA. That was a huge one, but he's from Ryan's tree. Like, they worked together at Boston College. They knew each other at Florida when they were together there in 2005. But just what's your thought on the continual promotion of people from within and not even really shopping for any type of new mind, new ideas, new concepts?
Well, I mean, this may shock you, but I feel like it's Ryan Day's program, and he's earned the right to kind of run it the way he wants to run it. He's the head coach. He's the guy that, if we lose, he gets blamed. If we win, he gets the accolades, and rightfully so. So, I mean, Ryan Day is committed to a kind of a family type of atmosphere and a hire from within and do it his way type of thing. And again, I fully support that as long as we're staying near the pinnacle of college football. And I think it's hard to argue after the 2022 season that we're not right there. I mean, we came within a kick of beating Georgia and winning a national championship. So, we're certainly, we're not sliding into the abyss. We're not, falling way behind the superpowers of college football. We are one of the superpowers of college football. And frankly, and I'll say it right now, 2023 is going to be even better. Our 2023 team is going to be markedly improved over our 2022 team. And, I like our 2023 team a lot. And so, no, I think Ryan's earned the right to do that. So, for him, I'm sure he wasn't thrilled about this giving up play calling thing, but I think it was the necessary step, for the greater good. And he's still going to be involved. It's not like, Brian Hartline's going to be receiving tutelage from one of the great play callers in college football and one of the great offensive minds in college football. So I just see this being a win-win-win and a net positive for Ohio State. I mean, the thing that I'm not concerned about, but this necessarily brings Brian off the sideline up into the box, and so now you're leaning more on, I guess, Kenny Bailey to coach the guys on a play-to-play and a game basis. But that's the only thing that I'm really worried about is how that, because I just don't see how it could possibly work that he could call the plays from the sidelines, and I think he's got to be up in the boot to make that happen.
Yeah, that'll be fascinating, and that's going to be one of the really important parts to spring ball. It'll be interesting to see if they go over to the horseshoe a few more times and work through the schematics of Brian Hartline actually being up in the booth just to get used to it, because it's a totally different deal. And there's no guarantee he's in the booth. I think he should be in the booth. I think every play caller should be in the booth. I think that I've sat next to Tom Herman when he was a play caller in the booth, and the level of control and, it's not calm, but I always feel like, you sit there, and I say it's like taking a standardized test. For any of you guys that have taken the ACT, SAT, GMAT, GRE, any of the grad school tests, imagine walking around up and down on the sideline trying to take the test, when it's loud as a jet engine with all the fans and the craziness and players running around all around you, or sitting in a controlled, quiet press box. And that's kind of like the same thing, is if you're really trying to focus, if you're really trying to, look at the looks, because something I did when I was a graduate assistant for Tom Herman is I would draw out the defenses that we got, the blitzes versus each play. I just kind of would freehand draw it and say, hey, this is where they came from. And then I had a guy behind me who would give the coverage. So I would just write the coverage in. So you could kind of, go ahead.
Kirk, I got a question for you on that. Can you see that from the sideline? Or is that something that it's impossible to tell from the sideline? You can only tell it from the box.
I think it's impossible. It's impossible to tell it from down on the field. Like, I mean, you might, but man, it's really hard. I mean, when you're, because the other benefit that you have in the press box that nobody else has ever really talked about is that you also have ESPN or Fox or whatever is the live TV broadcast that is also playing in there, and it's also a couple of seconds behind the actual game. So what I would do is I would watch the play live. I would watch it up in the box on the TV, like in our thing. And then I would look at it on the Jumbotron. So I would get like 3 views of a play, because again, when everything's happening and you're trying to watch 11 guys, you can't watch 11 guys at once. So I would watch the left side of the point of attack. If we're running to the left, I'd look at the point live, backside on TV, and then if there was something like a blitz or something I need to be doubly sure on, I'd look at the Jumbotron. Because again, that's the only way that you can really be sure. Because again, when you're writing this stuff in real time, like these coaches like Urban Meyer and Tom Herman are counting on you to get it right. And if for some reason, you're seeing the wrong thing, and the next day you're sitting in film, and Kirk, you said that we were getting, the Sam coming off the edge, and in reality, he was coming in the B gap. That's a huge difference, So I mean, I made sure that I was on point for that because like you don't want to be getting it wrong and feeding people wrong information. Like, I would talk to Ed Warner because there's on the headset. So the headset is kind of like a pyramid. There's an offensive side and a defensive side. And the only person that can flip over from offense to defense is the head coach. On the offensive side, there's two channels. There's channel 1, channel 2. So channel 1 would usually be the skill guys. It would be when I coached, it was Zach, Hinton, Tom Herman. And when the O-line would get onto the bench at the sideline, I would tell Ed Warner, hey, go over to channel 2. So on channel 2, me and Ed would just go through the plays. Okay, the first play we ran, you were tight zone. Second play we ran power. Third play we had empty protection. Marcus Hall went the wrong way on the play, or Jack Muhort missed his guy, or we fell down on the double team. We tripped, whatever. I would kind of have little notes there. It'd be real important if they ran like a stunt or a blitz, because I would have to tell Ed exactly where, okay, the Sam linebacker came off the edge, the end went down to the A gap, and then the Mike linebacker hit the B gap. So he's like drawing it on the grease board based off exactly what I'm telling him. And I would say, make sure so those guys could get a very accurate picture. And again, that's something that people don't notice and they don't see, but that's why it's important to have a really good GA. And you have to have the, kind of the stones to do it in the moment, because, you're talking to the offensive staff and, you're a little GA, but like you got to have your stuff on point, or else you're going to be, you can't give them a cloudy picture. If you give them a real clear picture, then magically you're really good. It was like when we played Purdue in that overtime and to go for the 2-point conversion. I'll never forget, like Urban wanted to run tight zone, which is zone right in the A gap, right at their best player, a kid named Kewan Short, who played like 8 years in the NFL, made like $80 million playing for the Carolina Panthers. And I told Tom Herman, I'm like, look, if we run at this guy, we haven't blocked him all day. He's killed our guys. Like, if he's the best player that I think we've gone against all year. So if you guys want to run right at him, with our jobs on the line, then God bless you. But I wouldn't do it. I would run the tight end hide play. And that was the play that we practiced for our 2-point play. And Herman overruled Urban and said, Coach, we practiced this as our 2-point play. We need to run this as our 2-point play. And I was like, thank Jesus. Because like if we would have ran to Kewan Short and he blows up our double team and we get stuffed and lose to Purdue at home, then all the magical 12-0 BS would have gone up in smoke, because Urban wanted to run right at their best player. I was like, let's not run at their best player. Let's just throw it at their terrible linebacker. But I don't, that was one of the funniest things ever, because I was like, oh my God, don't run at that guy. We haven't blocked him all day. But that's kind of like the stuff that people don't see inside the madness when they're just watching the game. You don't realize how crazy it can get sometimes on the headset, and how sometimes you just have to try to stay calm, because like when it's nutty like that, I mean, the biggest thing you do is just be calm and say, this is what it is. And this is the right course of action. So, guys, by the way, if you're watching the film right now, anytime I want to get excited about a kid, I watch Jelani Thurman, who I think is going to be an absolute warhorse for us at tight end this year. So I'm watching him. I'll put some Ennis on just so you guys get a little Sunday special to watch. Nevada, Justin Fry promoted to running game coordinator. Any impact on our running game? Do you think we're going to see some more power, some more gap scheme potentially?
Well, I would think so, and I want to go back to my question that I asked you before, just because I always wonder, because when I'm sitting low and I'm watching it, the field looks like a mosh pit to me. It looks like a Green Day concert or something like that, and I can't tell what the heck's going on. And the only way I can tell what's going on is by being above. And I've always wondered how, think about Ryan Day right now calling plays as the head coach of Ohio State football, and he's on the sideline. And you've been on the sideline, like you said, it's people screaming at you, it's the crowd going nuts, the whistles, the ref coming over and talking to you, and you're trying to call plays. Like I just don't know how it's done. I mean, it takes a special kind of guy to do that. But I'm glad you were able to provide that kind of input regarding being above and how it works with the offensive coordinator, how the relationship, because I don't think a lot of people know that, and I think that's great insight. But back to Fry, I think Fry's going to have an expanded role for sure. I think that was kind of the plan when Ryan brought him in. As you mentioned, they have a pre-existing relationship that goes back. I mean, let's face it, they're really, really good friends. They're really, really close. So I think that was kind of part of that. Even though Justin's from the outside, that was a a familiar move for Ryan to make, and one that he wanted to do. And I think we'll see the impact of Fry. But I think the biggest impact for Fry next year is going to be having a healthy running back room. I mean, if you have Mayan Williams and Trey Henderson and Evan Pryor and Dallin Hayden and Chip and Xavier, and in any combination of those guys, your running back room is going to look terrific. And I think Justin will look terrific as a result. So, no, excited for 2023. Can't wait to see the offense hit the field, and especially with CJ Stroud back as the quarterback. I mean, come on. How exciting is 2023 going to be?
Yeah, I think I just
wanted to see if you were paying attention. I want to see if you were like.
Again, I think we have a better chance of Cliff Kingsbury coming and being our head coach next year than we do of Stroud being back with the Buckeyes. But I don't know. Like, I think that, with our weapons, with Marvin back and the amount of skill we have back, I'm not worried about the offensive line at all. I know that everybody likes to lose sleep and be scared to death because we lose Dewan, we lose Paris, we lose some really exceptional players. But, I think our tackles will be fine. I think that, Matt Jones coming back and playing center potentially will be huge for us to stabilize the middle of the line. Getting a 6-year guy back is huge. He's a big, strong guy, strong as a bull. So, I just think that's why they call Justin Fry coach, man. He's got to go coach these guys up. I've seen a line with much less talent and much less experience in the 2014 line go on and win a national championship. And when we were sitting here in spring 2014, nobody was saying, oh my God, we have a national championship O-line. So, we were losing Jack Mewhort, who is an All-American, Andrew Norwell, who should have been an All-American, Corey Lindsley, who turned out to be the highest paid center in the NFL, and Marcus Hall, who was a really above average player at right guard. And the only guy we had back was Taylor Decker. So it's actually very similar to that year, except we actually have more experience coming back, and we have more starts coming back, and we have more guys that have actually been in the mix and played a little bit, because you've got Donnie Jackson, who could play left tackle easily. I think that it'll be interesting to see how much Justin Fry, if he makes Donnie the starting left tackle from the jump, or if he rotates Zen Mikulski in at left tackle, Donnie at left guard, Matt Jones at center, Enoch at right guard, and then right tackle Josh Fryer. I think that's a very above average offensive line. And look, guys, like, you're not going to have Paris Johnson every year at left tackle. Paris is the best left tackle we've had since Orlando Pace. Great career here, very good player, but I think Donnie can be. He won't be at a Paris's level, but Donnie can easily be a first or second round pick. Easily. He's that talented. He's that good. Very, very young kid. And he was first team All Big Ten this year as a true sophomore. Like, how hard that is to do? I do. Like, true sophomores, I think the last true sophomore that I can remember making All Big Ten was Joe Thomas. And that was in 2004. Or 2005. That was a long time ago. Joe obviously is a first ballot Hall of Famer. He'll get elected to the Hall of Fame this year in all likelihood. So that's pretty rare air. Like, that's tall cotton, because I think that, generally they lean towards older guys, seniors. You got to have some preseason notoriety. Donnie Jackson had zero preseason notoriety just because he didn't, he was a first year starter, and he was a guy that was the number 41 rotational tight end with zero career starts. So, to go from zero to first team All Big Ten is really, really impressive. What's up, Sue? What's up, RK? We got some of the regulars in here. Appreciate you guys tuning in. Any questions for us as we keep grinding along? Nevada, we offered our first 2 Ohio offensive linemen. I know that you did your happy dance because you love Ohio offensive linemen, like your boy. The Armstrong brothers from St. Ed's, they are both humongous, really good players, I think. The guys in the Woody Hayes think that they're going to be really, really exceptional. So your thoughts on getting a couple offers out early to a couple of 2024 offensive linemen from St. Ed's?
I think it's just kind of a reality. We right now really aren't in on any of the national guys. And so if you're not going to be in on the national guys, get the best kids from Ohio. It's the one position on the field that I would be comfortable just taking Ohio kids. And our last national championship, you talked about the 14 team that was 5 kids from Ohio. So I think offensive line is just a little bit different. I think it's the one place that you can go to for Ohio kids, and these two guys are exceptional, and you certainly heavy chance that you get both of them for Ohio State, and was excited to see that offer. I think Justin got the 3 top kids from Ohio last year, and I'm sure he'll sprinkle in some national kids with a national presence at some point. We haven't really seen that as of yet, but in the meantime, if you're grabbing the top kids in Ohio, it's certainly an effective stopgap, and it's a guarantee that you'll always have at least a very good line, and because Ohio puts out great offensive linemen, it always has, always will, and so I was really pleased with the offer.
All right, Nevada, first super chat of the day, BMOT20, appreciate you, brother. Brown or McCord next year in Nevada? What is your call? Obviously, I know where you're going to go if you want to go chalk. Do you think, and here's my second layer to the question, does whoever you name first end up being the starter for every game, barring no injury?
Yeah, that's the thing. If you're asking me what would be my bet, I'd say McCord will take the first snap of the first game, but the guy that is there at the end is going to be Devin Brown. That's how I'd handicap the race right now. But I reserve the right to change my mind, based upon spring ball. I mean, we may go to spring ball and Devin Brown may completely ball out, or Kyle McCord may just grab the job and not let it go. But if I'm a handicap in the race, I'd say McCord's a heavy favorite to get that first start. But longer term, I'm going with Devin Brown. I think he's a little bit more athletic, a little bit more dual threat, and I think in today's college football game, you gotta have that, and that's how I'd handicap it.
Yeah, I think that's pretty spot on. Paul, what's up, brother? Good to see you. Thank you guys for tuning in today. I think it's really interesting because I think a lot of people cautiously think Devin Brown has more upside just because he's just ultra athletic. He's a kid that we really weren't in on at all because we had Quinn Ewers in this class, and Quinn reclassified, obviously, came in a year early. So that allowed us to move on Devin Brown. So it's, and again, I love this. Like, I mean, I highlighted this the last time. This is some Devin Brown high school film just because, we don't really have much of him other than taking a couple knees and a couple of little BS plays against Ohio State. But like, this is one of my favorite plays, like this is just so hard to defend. Now, granted, he should have gave this here because the end, the end does a good job. He closes contacts. This kid actually does a better job than you'd expect. I mean, this is not big time ball. This is, this is like Utah football. This is not Georgia or Texas or Florida. But like, if he hands this here, I mean, obviously the running back was like, where's my free touchdown? But, this is so hard to defend it. And I mean, this looks like Braxton. Now, granted, again, this is not Georgia or Ohio high school football here, but puts his foot in the ground. And that's why I love read option football, because it's just so, this is hard to defend, and imagine that this is Travion and this is, Josh Fryer, and this is one of our big time double teams. Like, I don't know how you defend that. But yeah, I love the element of the run. I know, I'm sure you watched, did you watch much of the Jacksonville LA game last night? I don't know if you did, but I mean, Trevor Lawrence had some huge scrambles. So did Herbert last night. Two of the best young quarterbacks in the NFL, two prototypical franchise quarterbacks. And I just think that escapability is huge. And, I think when you got a couple of tackles that are, potentially making their first few starts, like a little bit of escapability would do wonders, just because, they're not going to be as good as Paris and DeJuan at first, but I think that they can hang in there, and Justin Fry can gin it up to protect those guys. That's the biggest thing, man, is like, when you've got guys that are young, there's ways to make their lives really hard, and there's ways to make their lives very easy. So that's going to be on Brian Hartline. It's going to be on Justin Fry to protect those guys, especially as they're getting their sea legs. Thankfully, the start of our season is very, very easy. I mean, we have 3 cupcakes right off the bat before we play Notre Dame, which I frankly love. I think it's a lot better. It's a lot smarter to have that than going to South Bend week 1, which is kind of the reverse of last year where we had the Notre Dame game right off rip week 1. So, Nevada, Travion Henderson was the guy that obviously preseason first team All-American in every publication. had a very disappointing season. It was extremely banged up. Foot surgery, was out for the bowl game. What are your expectations for Travion? Obviously, he was a guy that the first time I saw him, I thought Saquon Barkley ran really violent, tough, explosive. I thought he was the best when I saw him, on film. I thought he was the best freshman running back we've ever had, including Maurice. Now that might be a little gaudy because I know obviously Maurice beat the Miami Hurricanes, but Maurice didn't have the top end burst that Travion did. But what were your thoughts on what we can get out of Travion for what will likely be his final year at Ohio State?
Well, I think first of all, there was some bad blood between Travion and the OSU coaching staff. Travion felt like the OSU coaching staff was kind of making some pointed comments about him not being, when Day and so they're going to talk about toughening up and playing through games and finishing games. And, they should have known better than anybody how painful his foot injury was and how bad the plantar was and, the ruptured tendon in the foot. And, he was really, really hobbled. And, we tried to tell people through the year, hey, you got to cut the kid some break because you don't go from being preseason All-American, one of the most explosive players in college football, to really, really hobbling around out there. He didn't just start sucking in year 2. And so I think, they needed to kind of clear the air there. I think they did that. I think, Travion's going to have a big season next year. I hope it for the kid because he runs so violently. He's not a guy that avoids contact or runs out of bounds or, tries to dance. I mean, he tries to deliver the blow almost to a fault. And, again, I think he's going to have a big season next year in this offense. I'm not quite sure how you stop it with all these weapons that they have. And no, I think he's going to be a key part of the OSU Buckeyes in 2023, and couldn't happen to a better kid.
Yeah, I totally agree. You guys keep the questions coming. Yeah, I think that skill wise, this is probably the best skill position I've ever from running backs, receivers, tight ends. I can't imagine a deeper, more top end skill group, across the board. It's almost stunning when you look at the depth charts you're going to be filling out and how are you going to get all these guys enough reps in spring ball and really and again, I don't like to swing negative at the end, but like how many of them are actually going to stay after spring ball once they kind of see where their reps are? Cause like you look at our running back room, I've never seen anything like the running back room we have with Trey, with Mayan, with Dallin Hayden, with Chip, with Evan Pryor. I mean, it's almost insane how deep that room is. And then you go to receivers, you got Marvin Emeka, Julian, then you got X who came back, then you've got Jaden Ballard, then you've got the 4 freshmen that didn't play at all. Then you've got the monsters, Brandon Ennis, Carnell Tate, the Rogers brothers. I mean, you got some monsters coming. Then the tight end room, Cade comes back, which is a huge shot in the arm. Then Joe Royer, who had a very tough year last year, lost his mom at the beginning of the year. So very tough on Joe. He played a lot, had a great catch against Georgia. You throw in Jelani, Bennett Christian. I mean, you've got some dudes in there, man. And I'm telling you, all of a sudden, I just look around and I'm like, man, I don't know. I don't remember having this deep of a skill group. Nevada, do you think if I set the over-under at 2 for the entire skill group, how do you take the over the under for the transfer portal post-spring?
Over. Gotta be just too many guys, too many talented guys, and especially with other teams, dangling NIL deals out there at people, and Ohio State's going to be a target-rich environment for something like that because you're going to have guys that are ready to go, ready to be productive college players, and as you said, it's just are they going to be patient enough to wait their turn? Not sure. I think that that's just the new reality of college football. You're going to see transfers before bowl games. You're going to see transfers after spring ball, and you're going to see guys come in too. So I think it's going to the freeway is going to move both ways, and as a fan, you just got ready to embrace that.
Defensively, we haven't talked at all about the defensive side of the ball so far. Some substantial losses. Obviously, Zach Harrison, I think, will be a sizable loss. He's a guy that was maligned throughout his career here. Really had a nice final year. I think he'll end up being a first-round pick, which sounds crazy to people, but that guy's going to run a 4.6. He's going to be 6'5.5", 280, 275. And guys, that's the prototype for defensive end. And then he'll interview off the charts. He's a very nice kid, great parents. He's a low maintenance kind of kid. So, when you're an NFL guy and you're looking at, the different boxes, I think he's a guy where the production will come. I think he's like a Donnell Hunter, a guy that got drafted out of LSU, went to the Vikings. He was a guy that did not have a lot of production in college, and then he turned around and became a Pro Bowler in the NFL because of traits. And I think that a lot of GMs and coaches and head coaches and defensive coordinators and D-line coaches will love Zach Harrison's traits. But outside of that, we have a ton coming back. So we have JT and Jack at the ends. We have Michael and Tyleek in the inside. The huge cataclysmic news that Tommy Eichenberg was coming back, which is fantastic because you kind of get the heart and soul of the defense. He'll be a preseason All-American. Likely will be the Butkus favorite, I would imagine, with his running mate Steel Chambers right next to him. And then the secondary, we lose Rocket Hickman. He went pro. Lathan will likely be back. The corners will be back. Do you see any coaching changes coming Nevada? Because I'm not sure. I think that, until we're after signing day and all the NFL gyrations have happened, and that's the thing about with coaching is I never feel like there's firm ground until after, maybe even after signing day, because I think there's still going to be some NFL coaches to get fired. I think that there will be some college coaches that potentially could take those jobs. There's still going to be some earth moving going on, but your thoughts on any movement on the defensive side of the staff room?
Yeah. If I was, we're talking about betting. If I was betting, I'd say that the defensive side is going to probably have at least one change here by spring football. So we'll have to see if that comes to pass. I think it's something that that we've heard about here. Not ready to go public on it for obvious reasons. No reason to speculate on it because it might not happen. But if I was betting, I'd probably say that it does. I think we'll have a move on that side of the ball, and probably for the best. So Ohio State's got some real question marks. Next year, obviously, we've talked about sack production, we've talked about the cornerbacks, and I think the sack production. We're going to do the old Billy Bean Moneyball thing, and how do you find a Chase Young with 19 sacks? Well, 9.5 sacks each from JT and Jack Sawyer is Chase Young, and I think that's how we get our Chase Young next year. But those two guys taking a big step up. But we've got questions at cornerback. I think it's the only position on the defensive side that I'm really concerned about, and we're gonna have to find some guys that can play either in the portal, in the room, or in the incoming freshmen. And that's something that I don't worry about much for Ohio State. But that's definitely an area of concern and definitely something that needs to be kept a close eye on here heading into 2023 season.
Yeah, I totally agree. A name that keeps popping up in the chat. Appreciate you guys being here. Mitchell Melton was a guy that looked fantastic in spring ball. Had a terrible knee injury in the meaningless spring game, which again, I think that you still need to play the spring game. I think you need to get those guys out there in front of the stadium, in front of a fan, in front of the big cathedral that is Ohio Stadium, because a lot of guys can do it in practice. A lot harder to do it when the bright lights are on and the world is watching you. But Mitchell Melton's a guy that I think could work into the rotation. I loved his game. I thought he was really nasty off the edge. And there's going to be ample opportunity, man. We are open for business to find defensive ends that can rush the passer. I think Jack needs to take a sizable step. And really, I think JT does too. I love JT Tuimoloau, but if you delete that Penn State game from his resume, I don't think he's been what he was billed to be as the number one player in the country. You'd expect that guy to be, a first-team All-American preseason at this point. He likely will be. But the sack production needs to increase from our ends, from our interior guys. Again, if you look at the efficiency rating where, Mike Hall would play, 17 plays a game and he ends up with 4.5 sacks, I think that, as those guys get larger snap shares because of Teron Vincent, Jerron Cage moving on, along with Zach Harrison, you'd have to think there'd be an uptick there. But you got to backfill. You need guys like Hero Canoe to come on. You need some of these guys to to give you some valuable stats because the D-line does have to play in a rotation. It'll be really interesting to see what they do with the jack and how they deploy that because, Jack Sawyer had played as the jack. I did not like him in the role as much as I thought I would. I thought that the hybrid thing would be great, but it really, it wasn't used anywhere near as aggressively as it was at Oklahoma State. Like when I watched it at Oklahoma State, it was a lot more downhill, a lot more blitzing, a lot more of a pass rush type thing. With how we did it, we used it to try to disrupt the running game, and we just really weren't very good at it. Our one really long play that we gave up against Michigan when it was not cutting time at the end of the game, we were in the jack formation, and Michigan just sealed it right up, and they ran it for about 75 yards, and then it happened again against Georgia. Georgia had the long run where the running back fell down at the end and didn't get in the end zone. That was versus the jack as well. And, it's an odd defense. And if you don't get across, to the vacant hole when they run that zone play, I mean, it is bad. It's like the Red Sea parting. So I don't know. I would can the jack. It's interesting. People mentioned CJ Hicks playing as a jack. I think you have to find CJ Hicks a role. I think the hardest part about the portal, man, is like some of these guys that are 5-star guys, big time guys, man, teams, they tamper with them and they're going to be going after them to try to recruit them. And you got to give CJ Hicks some sort of a role. He can't just be sitting on the bench, being a special teamer for another year. I think I would try him at the jack. He seems like a natural at the jack. I think that, in the back end, I'm really excited to see what Sonny Styles and Kai Stokes can do with Lathan Ransom in the back. I think that those guys are plus guys. Obviously, Cam Martinez, I'd love to see Sonny in that role or in Tanner McAllister's role because I think he's got the athleticism to do it, but he also is substantially bigger, stronger. I can't imagine what he's going to look like after another winter in the weight room. Come spring ball, I think he'll be filled out even more so. And he's the guy that I thought we would have seen more of as the season went on. We saw him early in the game against Wisconsin, and that was kind of it for about 9-10 games. Then he was playing early against Georgia. So I think he was a big part of the defensive package versus the Georgia Bulldogs. But when Washington, their giant 6'7", 270-pound tight end, got hurt, they really went away from that personnel. And so you didn't see as much Sonny like we were projecting you would. Nevada, give me 2 breakout stars on defense this spring that you'll project that could help amplify what Jim Knowles likes to do on defense.
Wow. Well, I mean, I'm going to go with Jordan Hancock just because I just want him to be, good, so badly. And then I'll go with Kai Stokes, another blast from the past, another kid that I've been really excited about since he set foot on the campus. But those would be my 2 breakouts. I think we need guys to come, emerge from that defensive backfield and go. So they're my picks.
Yeah, and Jod Carter's in from Syracuse, so he's going to be in the mix in the back end. But yeah, our secondary just has to play better. Like the corners were a mishmash last year. I mean, Denzel Burke is one of those guys where after the first 6-7 games of his freshman year, thinking he's a 3-and-out first-round pick, was playing with a lot of confidence, I remember specifically watching him a lot in the Oregon game. I was sitting, in the lower section, and that kid was out there balling, man. I mean, he was fearless, tough, and something is different. Something's wrong. I don't know if it's a technical thing. I don't know if it's, and again, it's weird because, as much as we pan Kerry Combs, like, he produced a lot of good NFL corners. Marshawn Lattimore, he made a lot of these kids really rich in the NFL. Gary and Conley, obviously Ward. We had some monster corners under Kerry Combs, and maybe his impact with Burke was something that was maybe he just clicked with him. J.K. Johnson loved Kerry Combs. He is not a Tim Walton fan, which is why he left and went to LSU. So there's a lot of moving parts, a lot of entering stuff. So we're going to talk real briefly on the Big Ten commissioner. Nevada, our boy Kevin Warren took off, thank God. Any thoughts on who or what you would want out of the next Big Ten commissioner?
Well, 2 things. One, if you guys missed it, you guys got to dial it up. But Greg Sankey, the commissioner of the SEC, just went and took a big doo-doo on Kevin Warren on the way out, which I thought was awesome. Basically calling him out for, taking these commissioner job and using it as a stepping stone to another job instead of, using it as a foundational piece to deal with the structural issues with college football. And so, I mean, you can tell there was no love lost between those guys. And that made me laugh. The second thing that I think is really, really interesting is that the Big Ten, they're on a search now for the commissioner, but the person that they've got running the search is Jim Delaney, the ex commissioner of the Big Ten, who would be my first, second, third, fourth, and fifth pick to be the next commissioner of the Big Ten. I don't think it would happen, but I just thought that was one of those things that's like interesting. Yeah, Delaney picking the next commissioner for the Big Ten, and who'd be my pick? It'd be Jim Delaney.
Yeah, and for those of you that aren't on BuckeyeScoop.com, you guys got to get on here because this is the best. So we have one of our contributors goes by the name The Oracle, and The Oracle is a guy that, I mean, he is right in the middle of expansion, commissioner, runs at a very high level. So as soon as this broke, I was like, now's your time to shine, baby. So he's kind of got a play-by-play of what's going on in the Big Ten office, how they're proceeding, because this can be a big hire. And if Jim Delaney takes it, then holy cow, would that be amazing for the Big Ten? But it impacts Ohio State because we are we're the belle of the ball. We're the Mick Jagger of the Big Ten. So this is a big deal for Ohio State for just keeping us competitive with the SEC. All right, the media rights deal was fantastic. I think that it'll help the Big Ten explode as we add USC, UCLA, and we project to add a couple other schools to the Big Ten that are out of the Pac-12. And again, Oracle, I mean, he's been breaking all the news on the expansion. So he had the UCLA, USC stuff. He had potentially Oregon, potentially Stanford, potentially Washington, Cal. I mean, there's just a lot of stuff going on. So really interesting stuff. It's only on BuckeyeScoop.com. So we'd love to have you guys join us. We're on here all day, every day. Big NFL Sunday. Nevada, we've been going for about an hour so far. Any final things you would like to talk about before we wrap this thing up as we get into NFL Sunday?
No, just we're all on the CJ Stroud Panda Watch, waiting for this this big announcement, and interesting. I got a text during the show from somebody that it wasn't a, hey, CJ Stroud is returning, but it was asking me what I thought about what CJ Stroud was doing. And I was thinking, man, you should know the answer to this question. So I think a lot of people really don't know what the answer to this question is right now. And so I'm sticking with going to the NFL, final answer, but there's a lot of people that are wondering, and we'll certainly have the play-by-play at BuckeyeScoop.com.
Yeah, and tomorrow's the deadline, so he's not going to be wandering around. He's not going to be the happy wanderer for much longer, but he has the same agency as Dwayne Haskins and Justin Fields, David Mugliata, Athletes First, so I mean, but the thing about these guys is, they can say that he already has an agent. I'm like, well, these guys all have agents for marketing deals. And, like I said, the interesting thing, the biggest thing that gives me pause, obviously, is the fact that you can, make substantial NIL money. You can, as much as Mike Doss is known for winning a national championship, which is the crown jewel of his career, people always remember that he came back, and he was like the one guy that actually came back. So I don't know. It's not going to happen. I wish it would happen. I think it would be great for CJ's development. But again, it's his life. But yeah, I just, when you see guys like Justin Herbert, it didn't hurt him to go back for another year, and he's going to make a fortune on his next deal because he's a true superstar. Joe Burrow played 5 years. If you could imagine Joe Burrow going pro after 3 years, he would have been playing in Canada. So those last 2 years really took him into the stratosphere of being the number one overall pick. But it's going to be really interesting. I also think that, I'm excited for, this is going to be a big week for Ohio State. A lot of movement on the road. These coaches are hitting the road right now to go recruit, make offers, go kiss babies around Ohio and around the country to see these next round of kids that they got to offer, get them to camp. So this is going to be a huge week on bucketscoop.com. So I hope you guys are subscribed because, man, we live on that site. The site has been on fire recently, so it's really been a good time. So if you guys enjoy these podcasts, again, please leave us a like. Those are huge for us. Click subscribe. Subscribing is huge for us. I'm going to toss this on Spotify, and I'll also toss this on Apple Podcasts. So if you're not subscribed to our audio-only content, please subscribe to that. Leave us a 5-star review. Those are huge. Nevada, any final words as we get ready for the Dolphins and the Bills? Yeah, I forgot Tua's out for this. This will be a shellacking. But any final words today? Oh, well, he's already gone. Even better. So, well, live radio. I love it. I appreciate you guys. Thank you guys so much for shooting up here. Appreciate you, Sue. All the regulars. Thank you guys. We really appreciate your support as always. BuckeyeScoop.com. I'm going to be on there right after this. We'll have a big NFL. I don't know about it. You're right, Easy King. And Nevada went back to sleep. Now he's already watching the Bills game. I wonder what the money line is on that one. But appreciate you guys. Yeah, it's gonna be interesting. I think for some of you guys that are asking questions about why is CJ enrolled in spring classes, I believe that is just a technical thing. You know, you do it just in case. These kids enroll in spring classes, literally 2 months ago. You schedule, and like it's not like you schedule like the day spring classes start. You schedule like a month and a half in advance. It's just a technicality thing. So he obviously can drop out, but I think that he's thinking about it. I know that it's not going to happen. I know that he's already got an agent and all that. So he'll declare tomorrow and this will be all for naught. But I really think that, a quarterback is a guy that I always think should come back for another year. Again, I think that college is fun. Even if it's not just a money thing, he's still going to make great money, but college is fun, man. And once you get to the league, it's all different. Those guys are all going to find out when they go to the league next year that it's not the same as college. It's not your boys, and the money will always be there. Never chase the money. Always chase development and making yourself better. So, but we appreciate you guys so much. Thank you guys so much for joining us today. BuckeyeScoop.com, Buckeye Scoop Live, Scoop World Order. You guys make our show so fun. We love doing the live show because I love interacting with you guys. So thank you, AZ King, Sue, all you regulars on here. You guys are awesome. So thank you guys for tuning in. I'm going to be on BuckeyeScoop.com. We're going to have game threads going for all of the NFL games, all the breaking news. Special quick prayers to the Georgia football family. Suffered a horrific loss. Car wreck. Guys, be careful out there. It was right after they had their big championship parade. They lost a staffer and a player. Just a tragedy. So thinking about the Georgia football family, I think Kirby Smart is a class act, and that's a horrific deal. So keep them in your thoughts and prayers, guys. So appreciate you guys as always. Thank you guys so much. I will see you guys on BuckeyeScoop.com. Again, thank you for the likes. Thank you for the subscriptions. I hope you guys have a great Sunday with your family. And if you guys are bored, get on BuckeyeScoop.com because we're about to be on there all day talking NFL football, waiting for the CJ Stroud news to become official. And we're going to be talking recruiting. So got a lot of film to break down for some of these Ohio linemen that Ryan Day and Justin Fryer are debating on offering. So I hope you guys have a good day. Thank you so much, Buckeye Nation. And thank you, Scoop family. You guys are the best. Hope you guys have a blessed day. I'll talk to you guys soon. See you guys tomorrow. Go Bucks.